Praise be Jesus and Mary. So often we are afraid of our Catholic faith, ashamed, or compartmentalize religion into just Sunday. Yet Christ is Lord of all, and his kingship should permeate every aspect of our life. I've had the blessing of meeting 3 Catholic businessmen running very different kinds of businesses, it might surprise you, that do just that. Join us in this fascinating conversation with Curtis, Ed, and Nicholas as we find out how Jesus Christ, his faith, and his love permeates every facet of their lives. And welcome to another edition of Fatima Today. I'm your host, David Rodriguez, and today we have 3 very special guests and a special show. So we've looked out into the community and found 3 Catholic businessmen, men who run businesses and have tried to infuse their Catholic faith into their business. So I've asked them to come on to just talk about their experiences, what they do at work, how they came to do this. We'll meet them one by one. So the 3 are Curtis Eberle, and he's up in Wisconsin. We have Ed Miller, who is over in Ohio, and we have Nicholas Brueggeman, who is in Kentucky. And so I'll ask each of you just to say hello to us and tell us a little bit about yourself. Curtis, we'll start with you.
I've been married for almost 21 years now. My wife and I have 13 children. The youngest one is just under 2 months old now. One of them had a birthday yesterday, so that happens quite a bit in the household. So.
Well, when you got 13, I think so.
Yeah. We started the bakery 11 years ago now, and it did not start as you can see the religious goods behind me. So that was a slow addition. We started with books, and then over the last 4 years or so, we started adding the goods to it because there's no other place in our diocese to get any religious goods. The standalone stores faded away years ago. So yeah, that's, in short, that's, how we're here. And it's by divine providence, every bit and piece of it. So.
And so you have got a bakery, and it's also a coffee shop. And now what I didn't realize is you've even turned it into like a religious goods store, right?
Correct. So we do travel with it as well. So vendor shows. And so like yesterday, I registered for the Milwaukee Women of Christ Conference. So we've done different events. We'll do some stuff within the diocese as well at parishes. And so, yeah, it's a vast array of a lot of things going on. So
that's awesome. Well, and with 13 children, there's going to be a lot. Moving on to Mr. Ed Miller, if you'll introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are, what you do.
Yes, David. Yes, I'm married to Jenny. Been married for many years, and also we have 5 children. And I've been a Catholic my whole life, and I've been attending the traditional Latin Mass since 2012. And I own another building that houses both a movie theater, one-screen movie theater, as well as a sports pub, and both of those are Catholic. So I'm trying to run a Catholic movie theater as best I can, as well as a Catholic sports pub, and they are adjoined in the same building. There's also 4 apartments, and I do that on the side. I'm an IT person, work for a large health system as well.
Wow, that's got to be a challenge to be running a pub and a theater in a Catholic spirit, because those are 2 things that probably a lot of people associate with the world as opposed to, let's say, with the faith. But it's good because we have to bring the faith to everything, right?
Absolutely. And then the amount of evangelization that goes on there. I first, ran the theater, of course, for many years, and the pub was leased out. And, I've done many things. We'll talk about that later, about the Catholic timelines in the theater, et cetera. But a lot of evangelization happened in the theater, but not until I took over the pub 2.5 years ago did I realize how much even more happens in the pub.
That'll be good to hear about. And then Nicholas, if you'll let us know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Nicholas Brueggeman, and I'm part of the 5th generation family business here, Bavarian Landfill. We're waste hauling and disposal. So was started by my great-great-grandfather, and I'm the fifth generation and work here with, I'm one of 16 children. So I got 7 brothers that I work here with. One's down at the seminary. He's the only one that doesn't work in the business. And I guess besides that, just trying to take up space. And we have the large flags here, just trying to evangelize people as they're going down the interstate and try to just shed a little grace for them.
Yeah, no, that really is great to have such large families and to have family-owned businesses. It seems like each one of you has that as well, handing it on. Curtis, you might mention that a little bit, but I particularly wanted to know, how you became. Obviously, it's clear that you are very vested in your Catholic faith, because we have a lot of Catholic people and a lot of Catholic people who work or have their own businesses, but don't always necessarily bring their faith to the workplace. We can oftentimes compartmentalize it. So, is there what compelled you to, let's say, bring your faith so much into your workplace to transform what a lot of us consider secular places? I mean, landfills, coffee shops, pubs, etc. Curtis, maybe you could tell us a little about that yourself, your own journey.
So when I started, I had a business partner, and just like I said before, the way everything started, everything fell into place. It was divine providence. I mean, my business partner, Diane, she was actually going to start the bakery with her daughter, and I was doing insurance sales at the time for a Catholic insurance company, and it didn't work out for Diane. And then when things started progressing, it was all of a sudden we started talking about it, and it was on the we had a potluck, so everything ties together with food and the mass and get together, what we would do after, we'd had Christ the King. My wife actually wasn't there that day for mass. She was running an event. So I had the kids, and then after mass we had a potluck. So, that's where things kind of got kicked off. I mean, we signed the lease here on the Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and then we opened on the feast of Our Lady of Champion, which we didn't plan that either. So, which also, and I forgot to mention this as well, that I've been a firefighter on our local department now for almost 10 years. It's a volunteer paid on call. And that the Our Lady of Champion with the fire as well, that also falls during Fire Prevention Week. So there's a lot of things. That's what I mean, divine providence and overlapping. And so it's hard not to bring the faith into it. Obviously, my wife and I grew up, we were cradle Catholics. So, as we started going and attending the TLM in the end of 2010, it was just after Christmas. And so as our children were growing up, we started teaching them, catechizing them. That was when we were like, oh, we got so robbed. We weren't taught so much in the faith at all. And so, it was one of those things where we started progressing, adding things to the business. And, we started with small icons on the wall. And, we ended up, look at the picture I sent of the entrance, that crucifix that's over our, right by the entrance there. That one was actually given to us by a friend who actually wasn't Catholic. She was at an auction and picked it up for us. So, it's not easy to, have a Catholic business, especially when, you can go read the Google reviews that we have. I have friends that when I meet people and they want a good laugh, I'm like, go read them. They're comical. So, I don't want to get into all the COVID stuff so much to say, but, that was hard. It was very hard to stand firm against so many things that were going wrong. It's against the ways of the world. And it was a very trying time. But through the years, we did a book club that we would do. But then also during the lockdowns, they didn't have the fireworks that year. So we did rosary procession. So on the first Saturday. So we still do, rosary here on the first Saturdays. We also now do men's group once a week here. to, read the epistle, gospel, the catenaria, divine intimacy. So there's pray the rosary. There's a lot of different things. So, for so many of us guys on different levels, guys still coming into the church, other guys trying to bring their families into the faith. So, that's how we try and integrate it, besides going out and doing the vendor events, where we travel. I mean, we've gone as far as into Peoria, which for us is, 5-hour drive one way. So yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's all great to hear. I mean, and just in case any of the viewers don't realize or don't know, Our Lady of Champion is the only church approved Marian apparition in the United States. And it took place up in Wisconsin, very close to Green Bay. So that's up in the state which Curtis is in. So I'm sure it's only maybe 2-3 hours from where you live, that shrine. If you ever want to make a Marian pilgrimage and you want to stay within the United States, you can go and see Our Lady of Champion there in Wisconsin. No, it's fantastic hearing all the different things you do. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. It seems like a very much needed spiritual resources on so many different fronts. Now, Ed, what about you? What have you got going down there in a pub and in a theater? How do you keep that theater Catholic?
Yeah, it's very hard. So obviously Hollywood is evil, but I bought the theater building in 1998, so I wasn't quite a traditional Catholic yet. And after purchasing this building, I realized it came from my uncle. So I kind of was helping my family, and I'd lent them so much money, I became owner. So I really wasn't trying to buy the building in the first place, but divine providence as well. But with the theater, I started out running the theater, renting out the pub. And with the theater side, I put, so Dan Egan owns a company called Catholic Timeline, and I had his timeline in my theater, which is 10 foot by 3 foot. And it's the whole timeline of the history of the Catholic Church. And in there, when people came to get entertained, per se, you have to walk by the timeline to get into the theater. So from that timeline, we were able to catechize and talk to folks before or after the film and explain all the Marian apparitions, all the enemies of the church, all the popes from Pope, Peter, all the way out to Pope Francis, which again, I don't have it updated with the new Pope, but we would have these kind of discussions and go over Protestantism and when did Protestantism happen, in 1517, etc., and was able to point out and catechize some folks and getting some interest with that. So I did that for many years with that timeline, but it wasn't until 2.5 years ago when I opened up the pub. And I didn't know why I opened a pub. A fire happened. I'm trying to sell the building. And next thing you know, I'm owning a pub as well. And from there, I started, again, putting icons into the pub. So obviously the pub has a Herrgottswinkel in it. And so those who are German understand what that means. But that's actually God's corner. So it's a crucifix with the Sacred Heart and Immaculate Heart on either side. And that is predominantly displayed in the pub, as well as a lot from Tridentine Brewing. I have all their tins. They sell Catholic beers, and they're not in Ohio yet. I'm actually trying to help them get their license in Ohio so I can sell their beers. But their tins are all over my theater. It's got all the tins of the Flaming Heart IPA to the Casteros Mexican Lager. So those are all displayed as well. And as well as over the top of the bar, in the center of the bar, is a portrait of Christ the King. So a lot of people are sitting there at the bar, they're drinking, and they're staring at Christ the King, and they're bothered somewhat. And my piece of evangelization is never to start, right? So if they want to talk about the Reds, or the Cincinnati Bengals, or if they want to talk about, some beer or something, I'll continue that conversation until they bring up the faith. They can either see the 3-foot statue of the St. Joseph, or the icons of the tin, or the Herrgottswinkel, or Christ the King above the bar. And then they'll bring something up. And I look at that as my way of, having God say, now it's, time to evangelize. So that evangelization happens a lot. I used to think I did a lot of evangelization in the theater only, as I only owned that and rented out the pub. But since taking over the pub is at least 10 to 1 more evangelization than the theater was.
Well, that makes sense, I guess, from the natural perspective, in that, people are accustomed to talking in a pub and conversation is what you're there for. Whereas in the theater, you're kind of going there to be quiet, and you're in the dark eating popcorn, so you're not talking as much unless you're standing in line. So that does definitely make sense. No, I think that's fantastic. And I guess one thing that I've seen in both of your stories is just like the idea of putting something up on the wall, whether it be a crucifix or this Catholic timeline you're talking about. And maybe that's just one simple thing that all of us could do, no matter where we're at, even if we have like a cubicle or something that just can generate questions. And like you said it, I mean, that's a cool principle. Like, let someone else ask me a question. I mean, if they open the door, I'm going to answer. So then you don't appear as like, I don't know, carrying that big old bludgeon over people, but you're inviting and you're open. So I think that's great. Um, Nicholas, how about you? What things are going down at a landfill that somehow make it Catholic? I mean, that's an interesting one.
Huh. Yes, it is kind of probably interesting, especially after hearing your two stories. So, I mean, I guess I would probably say it all probably started. I mean, I remember my grandpa, he had a huge devotion to the Sacred Heart, always wore the Sacred Heart pin. We used to have rosary here every day in one of the offices. We made it a little chapel. All the employees could, if I think it was at 9 o'clock every morning, they could join in. They can still be on the clock, but they can come, say, 15 decade of the rosary for, or the 5 decade of the rosary for, the success of the business and all the employees and the families. That continued till probably about 2010, because we used to drive to Sharonville to get a mass every day. So going to go to the traditional Latin mass every day was quite a haul going through the Cincinnati traffic. It seemed like we always got in rush hour traffic on the way there, had to sit in it on the way back. So in 2010, it was right around 2010, we actually helped built the Assumption Church right up the road here, which is 5 minutes away. So now there's daily mass there every day. We don't actually have the rosary here every day, but my dad, my Uncle John, some of my brothers and I, we always try to, as best we can, make it the daily mass for the success of the business and all the families that are here. And then we kind of, I guess it was probably more of the before COVID, but we always had to pray the rosary sign. And it seemed like we had, for Christmas, we would always try to give out, and in our trucks we would have that were run up down the road. We had dedicated serving God and country on the side. We'd have a crucifix hanging up on the mirror where people could see them. All of our operators, even if they're not Catholic, they would see, hey, there's something different about the Catholic business. We don't, you got to watch your language, how you speak, and we just try to treat others, the way we want to be treated and be polite. And so then for Christmas, what we'd try to do is seem like a good time to evangelize people. We'd send out miraculous medals. One year we'd do rosaries the next year, brown scapular. We started doing the mugs that you were showing there at the beginning. And it still seemed like we could do more. And we're like, all right, so we're the highest point between Cincinnati and Louisville. Like, how can we do a little bit more? Kind of put our faith out there, show, hey, that we're proud Americans, but we're also Catholic, and we're not ashamed of it. And that's when we decided to take some of our old retired equipment, put a 100-foot flagpole on it, and we partnered with, we got with Trad Flags. Keith Jones, they're a great family company, and they were like, we want to make the world's largest flag you can possibly get, and we want to fly it up here. Hopefully the people going by on 71, 75 could kind of witness that. Get that little bit of grace. Maybe they're not Catholic or they're falling away, but they might, be inspired to be like, when they're coming up the hill there, and, you can't miss it. If you're going down the road, you're going to see the flag if the wind's blowing. So that's kind of, I guess, a quick timeline on how we got to where we are now, this conversation here.
Yeah, no, I think one time someone from your organization even contacted me through the St. Vincent Ferrer Foundation, and we had some talks. I forget which one it was, on a saint, on this or that, but they ordered a whole bunch, and it was precisely like to be a Christmas gift.
Yeah.
So I think they were like handing them out to all the employees, like talks on the faith. That's a great
Yeah.
thing, if a Catholic business owner is giving, like you said, these scapulars, rosaries, miraculous medals, CD talks on the faith, that kind of thing. And I have to admit too, I was just really 71. is, for those who may not be familiar with the area, it is one of the major interstates that carries a lot of traffic. I mean, semi trucks, right? The 18 wheelers are there nonstop, and they just fill it because so much of the traffic, Cincinnati, when you look at a map, it's kind of a nexus. A lot of traffic goes through here. A lot of transportation goes through here. I mean, Amazon's built a hub here because they know how much traffic flows through here. So a lot of people are constantly driving up that 71 freeway, and it's become a really nice drive for me. I don't get to make it too often. When I do, I really enjoy it, and I always really do look forward to it, because the first time I ever saw it, I was so surprised. Like you say, I was just coming over, and suddenly I see this huge flag. This guy, I think it was maybe the Sacred Heart, and I was like, whoa, I didn't even know this project was going on. And so it really floored me. And I love it, right? I get to pray every time I see it. I kind of like, I'm cheering for our Catholic faith when I see it. So I'm definitely very grateful that that flag is up there and that many people are seeing it all around the world. Nice work.
Thank you.
And I mean, anyone jump in here. Anything particular, for example, about the Message of Fatima that has influenced you in your faith or in what you do in your Catholic business? Because this is our Fatima Today show, so I always like to make links to Fatima.
Well, David, my wife and I went to Fatima actually in 2019. We went on a pilgrimage, and Fatima is one of the destinations. So we were able to see Fatima, Portugal, and see the shrine, which was great. And we were able to experience that. And obviously, with the message being penance, 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 to me, what that means is we need to do our penance here. We need to do it on earth while we're not under hellfire in purgatory. So I try to do as much penance as possible to make reparation for my past sins and sins of our family, and to do best we can there. But obviously, with praying the rosary, doing the Fatima prayer at every decade, right? So that's always special. So that was a big event to be able to see Fatima and to experience that and to learn all about that. So that was I definitely have a devotion to Fatima.
And on that note, Ed, especially because you mentioned reparation, I think I was in your establishment once. Somebody may have said something they shouldn't have said, and you have a little policy there with regards to reparation. What's that about?
Yeah, well, yes, obviously we were talking about when Nicholas was talking. I was like, yeah, he's talking about cursing. I tell people I'm an inventor, and they go, really, what'd you invent? I said, well, I invented a blaspheming bucket in the pub. So, I was watching the Maverick movie that came out a few years back when I was rehabbing the theater and the pub. And in that movie, if you remember, that the actor, hit on the bartender, and then she rang a long, long bell. And from there, he had to buy round for everybody. So that gave me the idea of buying a large bell and hanging a bucket from it and having it being a blaspheming bucket, which on the bucket is the second commandment. And I express how I donate all those funds to the church at the end of the month. And so anybody that curses or has any type of vulgarity, we ring that loud bell. And my son, who's 26, told me I cannot open a pub and put in a blaspheming bucket, but I did it anyway against his wishes. And there are a lot of people that do not come to the pub anymore. It cleared out a lot of people that used to come to that pub. And a lot of people enjoy it. There was actually one story where a man probably put $40 in that bucket over the last 3 or 4 months. And after a while, he stopped cursing, actually, in my pub. I'm sure he cussed outside the pub probably, but in the pub, he remained quiet. And one day, I rang the bell on someone else down over the left side of the bar, and he popped out of his chair, ran over, and yelled at the gentleman for cursing and said, "We don't curse in this pub." So from 4 months, he went from a sailor to a prophet.
Wow. No, that is an amazing story, because, those are making differences in people's lives. And wow, that's fantastic, Ed. Yeah, I hadn't heard that story yet about the bell. So good job on that, because we know how much reparation needs to be done, especially for that second and third commandment that we violate so often as a culture. It's just become normatives, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yes, well, I take that money and I buy masses. So really what I do with that money is mostly buy masses, and it's either for reparation against the second commandment, it's about the Immaculate Heart, Sacred Heart. So I buy different masses at different parishes, tertiary Latin parishes, and be able to make reparation.
Providing stipends for the masses. Yeah, got you. Very good, very good. Nick, Curtis, anything else you wanted to add? Any connections to Fatima that you see?
Just going on the rosary. So when we did the procession stuff, we actually recorded the 15 decades, so I didn't have to repeatedly say them. So then, one of the things we do is, when we come in and start our day, I don't stop, but at least I turn it on and play that every morning. So, because my kids and I come in, my wife comes in a little bit later, and get going. So we start with that. And then also when you talk about the messages of Fatima, and then we also, prepare physically besides, the spiritual and mentality part of it as well. I guess if you want to go on the prepping side, looking at potential chastisements coming, being we have access to food and whatnot, we work with, had families come and get stuff for, storing, food and stuff like that to be prepared. So, like with when COVID hit, how the, grocery store shelves were low and whatnot. So, that's what we talk about a lot, is being prepared in all three facets: mentally, spiritually, and physically. So, and correlate it actually with, like Noah's Ark as well, because we have the warnings, be prepared. And everything is so repetitive. That's my true belief is, God repeats so many things, whether it's in the Old Testament, the New Testament, or the prophecies and the visions since, because we're so fickle and finite. And it's crazy, so again, it's a lot of divine providence stuff. So, I just want to touch on the fire department thing too, because when I was going to join 10 years ago, I told my wife, I said, I'm only going to join if I get this one number. There were several numbers that were available. The roster was, 1 through 40. Obviously, the command officers were the top. At that time, what was it, 1 through 7? So, 1 through 5, sorry. And so I'm on there. So the number I ended up getting was 33. And
Oh, wow.
yeah. So, and then just the year, I was, I'm now the third lieutenant, so which is number 7. So yeah, there's a lot of divine providence and all that stuff, and we tie those numbers in with our business as well. And I'm also the fire inspector, so there's, so that's where I say there's, when you start looking at things like the business opened on the Feast of Our Lady of Champion. And I know that's not Our Lady of Fatima, but it's still a Marian apparition.
It is Our Lady.
It is Our Lady, and I tell you, so many things are tied in with Our Lady with this. It's astounding. And then just a touch with adoration as well. That's something I didn't know about, and maybe I'm getting a little off track here, but that ended up being divine providence. Not knowing what it was and signed up for it. My spot was 11 to midnight on Thursday night. Still have that. And then during the COVID lockdowns, or just before it, my friend that gave us the crucifix, she worked at a local antique store. It's now closed, but she had approached me and said that they had the relic of St. Margaret, Mary Alacoque. And, family was, it was their mother's, and they were getting rid of it. And so I had to go in and rescue it. And then that was when I discovered about, Christ asking St. Margaret to be in adoration from 11 to midnight. I didn't know that. And I'm like, again, I told my wife, I'm like, I had to read it out of the book that I had, that it was sitting here, and I didn't even realize it. So, yeah, it's so many things for so many ways with our business that it's just, by the grace of God, I am what I am. And, we're here because of His grace and everything He's bestowed upon us. So, besides,
Well, I'm really grateful, Curtis, that you brought up adoration, and really, you could say the Holy Eucharist, because I think a lot of times what people may not know is that the Holy Eucharist is absolutely central to the message of Fatima. And in fact, the 3 preparatory apparitions of the angel, who was St. Michael, coming before Our Lady would even come to the children, St. Michael came, and one of the big things he was teaching them was reparation and reverence to the Blessed Sacrament, adoring the Blessed Sacrament, right? Prayers to the Blessed Sacrament. And so that's a real important message, part of Message of Fatima, the reverence for the Blessed Sacrament and this adoration that you're talking about. As well as, if you read in Sister Lucia's diaries, very often when things happened, like when she was hearing about when she got the vision of Tuy and God was asking for the consecration of Russia, when Our Lady comes to ask her for the first Saturday devotion with all the specifics at Pontevedra. That's December 10th, 1925. The other's June 13th, 1929. But those are both on Thursdays when she is doing her holy hour from 11 to 12. So again, Thursday, that hour that you just mentioned, the 11 to 12, and she's lying prostrate very often, repeating that prayer that the angel taught her before the Blessed Sacrament. And that's when Our Lady is giving those specific things that are going to foster this devotion to the Immaculate Heart, in the world that we need. And of course, the Sacred Heart devotion and the Immaculate Heart devotion are so intricate that I tell people, yes, Fatima is about promoting the devotion to the Immaculate Heart, key, but that goes hand in hand with Sacred Heart devotion as well. Our Lord wants both hearts, us devoted to both of those hearts. And so, of course, August is the month of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And I know there's a flag for that. In fact, I haven't been down that way yet on 71 this entire month. But is that the flag you're currently flying off of that high hill, Nicholas?
Yep. So this month we are currently flying the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And so what we typically try to do is on the evening before the first of the month, we have a gathering. We open it up to people from the parish, our business, and we all, we pick a time. Normally it's around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and we stretch out the new flag that's going to be flying. We say a rosary, and then a group of men take it up there to the flagpole, and we switch out the flags. And so, this month it is the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And then we put together some different photos of where the flag has been. Not all the flags have been getting around as much as the Sacred Heart of Jesus, or we took the Most Holy Name of Jesus flag over to Lourdes with us a couple months ago, or about a month ago, and we were touring France with it. But our plan is to try to get these flags where, they're super large, they take up a lot of space. You need 30 or 40 people to hold them, and then you untether them somewhere, and then people start talking like, hey, what is that? So what we try to do is then incorporate, we have a different priest, talk a little bit about the importance of the flag, give a little bit of history, and it's a different priest every month, and everyone kind of they all have their own spin, and something will click. Sometimes you hear things all your life in a sermon, and then a new priest comes in, or they change the way they're doing it a little bit, and it just like clicks with you, and you're like, wow, like I've been hearing this my entire life, and now it just I don't know, it just clicks with you. So we put together that in the video, so you have the different footages of where the flag has been, and we kind of incorporate that, and then you got some shots going over our mountain here, over 71, and wherever the flag was, whether it was on a pilgrimage, and we actually had some pretty cool ones with the Sacred Heart of Jesus on the Lions pilgrimage just recently, and it seemed like that was when it goes back to the Reparation. Pilgrimages are no fun. They're very hard. They're brutal. But going back to your previous question about, Our Lady of Fatima doing penance, if you want to do some serious penance, go on a pilgrimage. And that Lions pilgrimage, it's 33 miles throughout the night, no stopping. It's brutal. I didn't go. I'm hoping to go next year. And if you start the pilgrimage, they give you a nail, and it's with the year that it's whatever year it is. It would be 2025. And if you finish it and you don't get in any support vehicle, you get a red nail. And it's pretty incredible. So we have that video on our little channel as well. And then we try to share those with all of our employees, and, just to kind of help spread the faith.
That's a fantastic way to evangelize, for sure. Like you say, spreading that to all the employees. And for those of you who have seen the video and like those flags, I know not all of us can have the flags that take 30 or 40 people, but they're also the smaller flags. And everyone can kind of have one at their home. I know Ed's at his personal house, not at his pub too, I think, but certainly at his house, he's got a little flagpole just outside the house, and he flies it. And I think it's great to, for example, especially in June when a lot of other people are flying crazy flags, to put up the Sacred Heart flag, in your neighborhood. So that's something, and Trad Flags has got those available, so people can get those, goes through Trad Flags. And obviously, Nick, the Immaculate Mary right there, that's the biggest connection we could give to the Message
Yep.
of Fatima. So I'm grateful that you and Bavarian are proclaiming it to everyone that drives down the interstate here in the area. Well, to close, I'd just like to ask if any of you have, inspirational words or words of encouragement, things, tips you might give to a Catholic businessman or an employee, how they can maybe bring their Catholic life, the Message of Fatima, a bit more to the workplace. Obviously, I think some things you've already said kind of touch on that, so people can kind of copy things you've done. By the same token, this is a great time to invite people to make their own comments on the video. Maybe there's something you're doing or something you do at work or a little tip you have to share it with us. Curtis, any parting kind of inspirational words you got for us?
Besides, definitely one thing we always promote is obviously trying to get other employees or businessmen or women, that to get a crucifix and hang it in their office, cubicle, wherever they may be, and not hide it. It's making it so it is visible. Don't be ashamed. It is going to be hard in some ways, but it does make it so it's accessible, and then maybe people will be willing to talk, because you never know what's going to come up. And I would say one of the other big things is when you do stuff like it, it's being charitable and patient with people, because that it's having that open door. One of the other things I forgot to mention, like what we do that we started years ago, is we buy medals, and then we have traditional priests bless them, and we have them by our front door. We have a donation box there if people want to donate for it, but we've had people come in and just grab that stuff and go, and don't know who they are, and so it's very interesting, watching the evangelization part of it and what happens, besides the others that come in and do talk, and then you end up becoming friends, and it's amazing. So it's and the other thing too is maybe having holy water as well. Again, going back to COVID, not to live on it, but we have a holy water font by the front door, and I would like to say, and probably stand on it, that we had more holy water in our business going out of our doors than all of the parishes in the diocese, which is sad and pathetic. But and that's another thing we have, is we have a large, what are the immediate bulk containers full of Epiphany water in our basement.
Oh, nice.
So it's so we have that for people as well.
Those are powerful blessings. No, I really like that you hit on the sacramentals. There's also Fatima water that you can get from Fatima. Obviously, there's Lourdes water. Nicholas, you just mentioned going down to Lourdes. So those are great things, and to give those out. I think sacramentals, it's nice. Like you say, as Catholics, we're incarnational. We're visible. We have all these signs. I just thought when you mentioned the crucifix, one thing that I do, and it's been an opportunity to talk, because sometimes I'll be at different places, like public coffee houses, on my computer doing work. But there's this Catholic decals, and they have a beautiful Catholic they have a lot of beautiful Catholic decals. My favorite one's a Holy Face. And so I've actually put the Holy Face on my computer, my laptop, so it covers up the apple. You got this big Holy Face, and I will, frequently get people come by who ask me who that is, or why I have that there, or they'll say, "Isn't that Jesus?" or the Shroud of Turin, or all these little conversations just pop up. And like you, Ed, I take those as open doors to start talking about it. So anything I think we can do on those lines of sacramentals will definitely be a big help. So thanks for that, Curtis, and thanks for being open in COVID. I know it was a huge thing for a lot of us, and I was very grateful for the few very courageous establishments like near us. There was actually a coffee house, not run by Catholics, run by Protestants, but they remained open, and they fought the state and took a lot of heat for it. But I started going there because I was like, I'm going to frequent this place, and we need to retain that spirit of normalcy. And you never know, that those kinds of things may hit us again. So we got to build up our courage. So thank you for doing that, for sure. Ed, what thoughts might you have as we close out here?
Yes, so many other things that I do with the evangelization, because I think that's the most important. As a Catholic business, as Catholic men, we need to, like Curtis said, not be shy about our faith. We have to profess the faith. We can't just do it in a safe little church environment on Sunday. So before and after every movie at my movie house, we only play Gregorian chant. So I get a lot of comments about that. Obviously, people are like, "What is that?" And I always say, haven't you been to church in a while? But yeah, the Gregorian chant is a thing that really, gets some comments. Obviously, we got the Catholic timeline in the theater side, and then with everything on the pub side, you said, I'm not here really to serve, beverages. I'm really here to help do my part in to help saving souls. And if we can save one soul, that would give us so much grace. It would be unbelievable. But, as far as what we also need to do is to support each other. So we have to support Catholic businesses, when the people go to the Evil Cinemark, I'm like, wait a minute, are they Catholic? You might actually go into, and I also don't play R-rated movies, except The Passion of the Christ, of course, which is free once a year at but basically we have to support each other. We have to support Catholics, back them up, support Catholic businesses, and be able to show your faith. And I think that's a very important thing that we need to do as a community, and start building up our communities where if they try to lock us down again or do other things, we have our Catholic community and we support each other. I don't mind going to a Catholic business and spending more money than going to a non-Catholic business, for example. I buy a lot of food and other organic items from Catholics. I try to support that. And then also back on, as far as the Bavarian goes, I'm lucky that, my real job, I work for Baptist Health in Kentucky. So I do travel down there. And if anybody doesn't know where that is, right where 71 and 75 split going south, you'll see the Bavarian flag. And they always had the trailer up there that said pray the rosary, right? And then they added added American flag at some point that was huge. And then I think it was last June when they added the Sacred Heart. And again, you could go to Trad Flags and buy all 12 months. So there is a Catholic flag per month. You see over my left shoulder here, that is the Immaculate Heart. But I usually have all three flags, the prior month, the current month, and the next month up on the building, so everybody knows what are the three most closest months for the flags for the Catholic devotion. And God will provide. Yes, I've lost a lot of business, a lot of customers because they won't come in, but I've also gained a lot, and God will provide.
Yeah, I see September, Our Lady of Sorrows, kind of right over your head. And then behind Immaculate Heart of Mary, I see the precious blood of Jesus. And even beyond that, I see Christ the King. So I do see those three, July, August, and September. Thanks, Ed. And I think even that, definitely support the Catholic businesses. I think that's a great way we can do little things for those who are, witnessing to the faith in public. And then even your point about Gregorian chant, I thought was a really good one, because I've had different priests say that it can be very soothing and a grace for just the family at home to have Gregorian chant playing very quietly. It has it's like a sacramental against demons that want to tempt us and stuff. So we have like this light Gregorian chant playing in the background. It could be in your business, could be in your home. I mean, I wish more businesses had it, especially like during Christmas time where they're all playing all this music and it's so loud. I'm like, couldn't you just put on some chant? But anyway, if you have it on in your home, when people come by to visit, it might be your kids' friends, it might be, relatives, it might be anyone, but they come in your home and they hear that Gregorian chant, even if they don't comment, it can affect them. So that's another little thing that we can do to live our Catholic faith. Thanks, Ed. That's a both of those great tips. And Nicholas, you want to close us out? Any ideas or suggestions, encouraging words you have for us?
I guess I'd probably like to piggyback off of, even the whole COVID thing. Seemed like it was a blessing in disguise in a way for us, because we kept seeing everything closing down, and we kind of felt like we were in our own little bubble here in a way because of the church and the school right up the road. It's like everything we do is within 15 or 20 minutes. But it is surprising, like as it kept going on, and I think that's really what kind of gave us the courage to do the other flag is we realized, what? All these politicians, all these people, no one's really standing up and it's like, wait, we're Catholic. Like if anything, we need to lead the way because no one's coming here to save us. And you've got to be bold, because you're just like, why don't one of these people stand up like this and just do the right thing? And it's like, well, truthfully, if we always feel like we are standing up. It's like, how can we make it even more bold of a statement, to help shed that, or, help kind of shine a light in that dark time. And then, it took us a couple years to get everything kind of modified, but now it's like God. Dad always says God will never be outdone in generosity. So he's like, I don't know if we lost any business or not. I'm sure there's probably some people that would just as soon not send their trash to us, but it seemed like our business has definitely grown, and we've definitely been extremely blessed. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with is probably going back, 4 or 5 generations before, saying the rosary, having the Catholic faith, and just passing it on to all the generations. And I think now it's just getting having the right timing, and I'm kind of glad that I can kind of just, it's really easy now. It's like, yeah, there's nothing, I think my grandpa and probably dad and all probably had a harder time, defending the faith than what we do now with all the technology. But I think that's very important. So, and then the only other thing I would just say is, we try to, do the best to make sure all of our, our employees, we're in the construction field, so we even put the Sacred Heart on our hats, to where everyone knows that, we give out hats to all of our customers, anyone that would want one. So, I don't know, I guess that's all I probably would be thinking.
No, those are great things. I mean, we are standing on the shoulders of others. That's how the faith advances, and all the saints, they lead the way for us. And I really like your note. It's a very good one to close. It is also one of my favorite phrases to say that God is never outdone in generosity. And so whatever way we respond to Our Lady and our Lord, whatever small acts we do to honor them and to love them and to spread it to others, right, to witness to our faith, be rest assured. I mean, I think you 3 men are great witnesses, and you're giving testimony to this, that God is not outdone in generosity, and that the blessings he gives us far outweigh these sacrifices, these penances that we will do for his greater glory and honor. So with that, I encourage everyone to do that. Please also, one small thing you do is like this video. You can share this video with others. You can also share our channel so that others can hear about the Message of Fatima and continue to spread the word. We appreciate that. Consider as well sending donations to the Fatima Center so we can keep this apostolate working and getting the message of Our Lady of Fatima to the whole world. As I say, God is never outdone in generosity. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, and may God bless you all in all your endeavors.
Thank you. God bless you too.
All right. Our Lady of Fatima, pray for us.
For us.